Hello, my name is Tyler Abbott, and this is my calling. So my calling happened as a progression, as Keith Drury would call it, and so it wasn't really just like a Damascus road calling, but it just happened over time through a series of events. And so that progression and that series of events happened. It started in about my freshman year of high school. What kind of started that progression is my freshman year of high school was when I really started to take my faith seriously and started to really actually pursue a relationship with God, not just say I knew who God was and I said the prayer and I'm going to heaven, whatever, but really made God Lord of my life and started to actually follow him. And so that was freshman year of high school, and so I got really involved with the student ministry at my church. And through that just began a relationship both with the student pastor at the time and my small group leader. As I got really involved there, I just kind of started to think, hey, maybe this is something that I could see myself doing in the future. And so that was kind of like that first seed planted in my mind and my heart. Hey, this is something that I might be able to see myself doing in the future. And then from there, I just had like a few random people in my life just kind of randomly tell me that they could see me being a student pastor or a youth pastor, not knowing, that I had already kind of had that thought in my head. And so that was kind of another little indication and a watering, okay, maybe this is legit. Maybe this is something that I not just could see myself doing, but might actually wind up doing. From there, I just kind of started to pursue more leadership opportunities, both at student ministry and in my high school with FCA and other groups. Through that, I just fell in love with doing ministry. God just really started to grow a heart in me for the local church, but also just for student ministry. And so I started to talk about this with my youth pastor and say, hey, I think this might be something I'm called to. Can we walk through this together? And so he was amazing and walked me through that process and continued that progression. And so he was like, hey, let's not only give you more leadership opportunity, but let's get you up on stage and giving your first sermon. And so I got really nervous and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I don't like talking in front of people. But I did it and I loved it and continued to, just loved preaching, and I loved sharing the word of God, whether it was at youth group, on stage, or in FCA groups, or whether it was on social media. I just fell in love with sharing the word of God with people. And so God just continued to water that seed, that calling in me. I would say through a few things. I would say one, just through that joy of doing ministry, fruitfulness of the ministry. I just had people saying, hey, like what you're saying or what you did or whatever, is actually had an impact on my life. And so just seeing some fruit come from the ministry that I was already doing as a high school student was just continued confirmation for me. And then also, like I said, kind of like just a growing heart for the local church and for student ministry. I just fell in love with both of those things. And then also just a growing heart for lost students. God just really started to open up my eyes to the brokenness in students' lives around me in high school and stuff. I just felt like God was saying, I want to use you to reach these kinds of students that don't know me, that are far off, that are in bondage to sin. So yeah, that all kind of helped water and solidify the calling. I definitely faced discouragement many times throughout my calling. Yeah, through seasons of unfruitfulness, through seasons of struggling with sin, and I faced a lot of discouragement throughout seasons of my life, but God just continued to confirm. Another key event of when I felt like he was speaking to me, I want to use you in spite of you. I remember hearing Carl Lentz speak at a youth conference, and he was talking about God's scandalous grace and how things that shouldn't happen tend to happen with God. And then he kind of transitioned that into, some of you feel called to ministry, but you're discouraged for this or that. You feel unqualified because of this or that. And it just really hit home for me. And I was like, yeah, that's me. And I felt like in that moment, I was like, no, in spite of you, in spite of the mess that you are, in spite of what you still struggle with, in spite of your inadequacies, I still want to use you. And I still want to use you to reach lost students. I just felt like that was definitely my calling from the start, is to lost middle school and high school students. That's what I pursued and went to school to do, and now I'm doing a residency at Cypress Wesleyan in Columbus, Ohio, and so I'm working with the students at that church, and then the hopes is to become a student pastor, middle school, high school students, and helping them come to know and begin a relationship with Jesus and fall in love with him through his word and through prayer and through worship and through fellowship. Just would long to see students hunger and desire for more of God. So that is what I feel called to do and hope to do in the future. So thanks for listening. See you guys.